Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the episode of the Dirty Birds and Brews podcast. It's Tuesday Takes Time with Tre'Shon Diaz. He's at Tre'Shon. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. We are here to bring you our thoughts on the Falcons vs. Lions preseason game. Tre'Shon was coming right into the live show. We were going to deliver some takes. It was going to be great. And then, obviously, you guys know what happened if you were there. Maurice Norris of the Lions goes down with a very serious injury, which thankfully it appears that he is okay. I know he was tweeting and appears to be okay, so that's tremendous. But it was quite the ordeal on the field, very dramatic. The Falcons and the Lions players seemed to jointly decide just to not continue the game. So missed Tre'Shon's takes on the live show. Obviously, you're not going to continue going forward with that. But we got Tre'Shon back today for Tuesday Takes. We're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like from that Falcons vs. Lions preseason game. Before we do, of course, want to check in with Tre'Shon. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. We finally saw some of the young guys get out there, and we saw some veterans too. So, it was, I would say, if you were like going into that game and if you were like buying into the narrative of like, we're not going to see any meaningful contributors play tonight, then you should have been pretty happy because you saw a lot of meaningful contributors on the defense getting some action, getting ready. And so, I think credit to Raheem. It seemed like, last year they did play a handful of defensive guys, but they seemed to play a lot more this year. I was pretty happy with just kind of seeing that on Friday.
Yeah. I really liked how much of the young players we saw, and the when and where we saw some of the veterans, I think was interesting. Talking about you, Morgan Fox. That was kind of shocking to me. But we're going to get into all that, guys. We're going to get into sort of our thoughts on how the young players looked, how the receiver battle is shaking out, because that one's looking spicy. Have a new contender emerging, perhaps, based on this first preseason game. Talk about the offensive line. Jack Nelson, we'll definitely get some words spoken about him. And we'll just sort of go through what we took away from a truncated week one preseason game, which I'm not really complaining too much about that. I know some people were salty about that, but let's be honest. I think by the time we get through the third preseason game, we'll be happy that we have one less quarter of preseason to talk about. But we're going to get to all that today. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Or if you want to wait to see if you like the show, that's fine too. Also, like and subscribe at the end. Or leave that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Follow the show there, all that stuff. Those things really help out the show in terms of reach, in terms of getting on charts and things like that. So if you haven't done that yet, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, it's a big help. So we'd appreciate that. Real quick, want to get you a word from our sponsor today, ZipRecruiter. Guys, look, we know it's tough to find applicants, right? It's tough to find good candidates. There's a million resumes. You don't know who's correct, who's not, which resumes are generated with AI. There's a lot of them, but guess what? ZipRecruiter helps make it easier, right? ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. Right now, you could try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio, right? They've got the tech to help you identify the right talent for the jobs that you have, right? Immediately after you post your job, ZipRecruiter's got great matching technology. It shows you the qualified applicants in your pool, and it lets you connect with those applicants immediately. You can use pre-written apply messages to reach out to your best candidates. You can encourage people to apply sooner, all that sort of stuff. Ditch the other hiring sites, guys, and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. You could try it for free at this exclusive web address for us. We've got ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All right, Tre'Shon. So, in terms of Falcons players, hopefully not looking for too many Falcons players on the job market right now, although we did get a couple of signings over the weekend. Grayland Arnold, who was a safety the Falcons had brought in, ended up getting put on the reserve injured list, unfortunately. The Falcons ended up bringing in former third-rounder and recently of the Colts safety Ronnie Harrison to help beef up the depth chart in the safety room, presumably because I think they've seen enough from DeMarco Hellams, and they're like, okay, no, we don't need to see him anymore. We don't need to see him playing any more preseason snaps. And then the Falcons also brought in a veteran center. Our prayers have been answered, maybe. Jake Hansen, who the team tried out last week, was brought in, and the team waived Michael Gonzalez. Those were sort of the moves this weekend. I think Jake Hansen's interesting. But like hilariously, his stat line, I think he played 2 games for the Jets. He had like a 30 pass blocking grade according to PFF and like a 90 run block grade. So I don't know exactly what to make of that, but look, if he can just do one thing really well, that's maybe you can work around that a little bit at center, but that's better than not doing anything well, I guess. But I don't know if he's like legitimately going to be an upgrade over Javon Gwynn or not. I'm sure that's something we'll talk about maybe right now. Maybe we should start with the performance of the offensive line, which wasn't. This is a little iffy, although PFF seemed to love it. I don't know if I agree with all that, but it's a little shaky, perhaps. But what did you think about that second string offensive line? Because we didn't see any starters.
Yeah. I thought PFF was pretty accurate with the tackle play. Brandon Parker and Jack Nelson, they had a rough day. And, Storm Norton, we didn't get to see the true swing tackle. So that's pretty much what makes me feel the best about the tackle performance we saw is that neither of those guys is the immediate backup to Matthews or McGarry. Interior was better by comparison, which maybe that's I do wonder if PFF, when they're watching it, they just get kind of lost and they're like comparing it now to what's happening across the line. And they're like, oh, the guards are so much better tonight than the tackles. That was a very low bar. I thought the interior O-line play was okay. It was much better from a pass protection standpoint. It seemed that they were picking up. They didn't do a ton of stunts or twists, but they did a little bit. Detroit did, and so I thought they did a pretty decent job, and they were better in the run. At least the guards were. Gwynn still just kind of looks like Gwynn, undersized, not super strong, doesn't give you much of a push, doesn't have much of an anchor. So yeah, I think it made sense that they saw game action and they're like, okay, yeah, like, we gave him a chance to go out there and win this job, but we feel like we have to shake up the room. And honestly, like you and I both talked about it, we would not be surprised if our backup center is still not on the roster and that the team is waiting for final cuts to go out there and just go out there and see what they can find.
Yeah. The interior was okay, like you said, especially in the pass blocking. It was fine. I didn't see a bunch of blown assignments there. I think Kyle Hinton and Elijah Wilkinson were largely fine as well, and that's to be expected. I mean, those are the only 2 guys from that group that I would be okay with, like spot starting here and there. I think without Storm Norton, the second team tackle room takes a big hit. Storm Norton was sitting this game out, nursing, I believe it's a minor injury. No reason to throw him out there in preseason if he's nursing an injury. So Jack Nelson gets the call up. I think Jack Nelson is more like a third string tackle at this stage, which again, he's a 7th round rookie. Like, it's not shocking, but he was clearly not ready for the second string. Definitely had struggles. Looked like a rookie late rounder, going up against, NFL talent, right? Guys that are possibly going to be playing in games this year. I'm not sure if Nelson's, going to be able to make the roster. He looks pretty far off right now. That doesn't mean his career is over or anything. He could be a practice squad guy while he continues to develop. But that was rough. And then Brandon Parker, we know what Brandon Parker is. He's limited. He's big. And that, and that's kind of it. There's a reason he hasn't caught on despite his outstanding measurables. He's just doesn't really have it to be an NFL starter. I think he's maybe like a deep depth tackle for a team, and that's typically what he's been. But if he's starting more than like a game, you're probably going to be in trouble. So yeah, I think we can all agree on that. But Gwynn as a pass blocker was okay, but again, you can just see how small he looks out there. It's just, you have to be truly rare in the NFL to be able to play at that size. And look at a guy like Willie Lampkin, who was playing with the depth unit, I believe, for, I can't remember if it was the Cowboys or whoever drafted him or got him, but he's like 5'11" and 290. This is like the smallest offensive lineman in the NFL. And he's out there. Lampkin. Yeah, but he's out there pancaking guys because he is an absolute master of leverage in the run game.
And he's pirouetting.
Yeah.
To get to the second level. Like Willie Lampkin is special.
Yes, he is a truly unique player. And again, he may never really be like a starter still. He may just be a good depth player, but if anyone, like, you need that sort of special talent, that sort of special feel for leverage and high end athleticism. And I don't really think Gwyn has any of those things. So I just, like, that's just an example that kind of proves the rule, right? It's the exception that proves the rule, which is it's really difficult for undersized offensive linemen to make it in the NFL. And I'm just not sure that Gwyn is going to be able to prove that. I don't think we've seen the leap necessary to trust him as like the guy that's like one snap away from playing center for you, especially considering how important the run game is here. So yeah, I think Hansen might be the first sign that the Falcons are questioning whether, Gwyn is going to be able to give them the depth that they need at center. And again, if it's like technique related or things like that, that's stuff you can clean up and teach, but you can't teach Jovan Gwyn to gain 2 inches of arm length, right? It's just like that's where we're kind of at. You can't teach him to get taller or increase his reach or build significant amounts of strength.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think the technique is really the issue with him. I think his technique is, fairly good. That was kind of his strong suit coming out of college. So I don't know how much more we can expect him to improve. And, I hate it for him because by all accounts, he's a great dude. The coaches love him. Teammates love him. He does seem to be able to lead the huddle and stuff like that, like from an offensive line perspective. But it would just concern me to have him like starting an NFL game for this Falcons team. So my opinion on that hasn't changed, unfortunately, after one preseason game.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I don't think it should. We didn't really see anything that made you feel like, oh, wow, this is that. So, it's good that the team acted quick and are doing what they can to make sure that they can drum up as much competition as possible there. And, the other signing, Ronnie Harrison is interesting because I do not think he has much influence on the safety room. And when he initially got signed, I kind of thought like maybe linebacker stuff. He was playing there in 2023. So, Ulbrich has that, affinity for these guys. And then, it was reported today that he was working with the linebackers in practice. And our guy D-Led tracking that information down for us. So we appreciate that. But I actually kind of like that. I wasn't super impressed, I think, with what we saw from the depth linebackers on the team, and just kind of knowing that he has those skills that Ulbrich really likes. You could see the potential for him to be on special teams. I think in all reality, he's really here to just kind of eat up some preseason snaps so that the team doesn't feel like they're putting anybody that they've currently got penciled in to count on at risk. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting move. At first, I was kind of like, don't really understand why we would sign another safety. But I had a couple people point out to me that he's played linebacker before. And then first day of practice, he's with the linebackers. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, Ulbrich definitely has a type at linebacker, and that's clearly his type. And that makes sense because Bertrand's still wearing the yellow non-contact jersey as of today. So, and obviously he wasn't playing in the game. It seems like Caleb Johnson may also be dealing with something. He wasn't practicing as far as I know. And, so the team was kind of thin at linebacker, particularly because it seems like they have D'Angelo Malone playing edge in the preseason as well, presumably because, again, they just don't have a lot of bodies there and they're not really trying to play Floyd. So, right now it's sort of like once you get past the top guys at the position, there's just not a lot of depth at linebacker. And Malik Verdon, I think maybe it's too late for him now. Like, we're in the preseason, he's still not off the PUP list. So it's just like I don't know that we're going to see anything from him. So Ronnie Harrison could be the next guy that's like, all right, if I can't get Verdon, well, we're going to go find someone else to play my converted safety role. But Ronnie Harrison, I think, is actually a solid player. Again, sort of in that spot where he's like maybe a little too small for full-time, like a little too big and for full-time safety work, but maybe a little too small for full-time linebacker work, unless you're playing in this defense, because they don't care how small you are in this defense at linebacker. I think they actually like it. So we'll see how that pans out, but I do think he's actually a pretty interesting name. Same thing with Jake Hansen. I think they're interesting guys. We'll see if the Falcons can get anything else out of these guys that other teams may have missed, or maybe they won't even, really factor into the roster. That's kind of, it can go either way at this point in the preseason, but sort of extending the offensive line discussion into the run game, it was abysmal. Nothing. I mean, Nathan Carter finally got something going. It seemed like, and then obviously the injury occurred and the game ended. So like Nathan Carter only had 3 carries. I mean, he looked the best, but Jashaun Corbin had 1 carry. Elijah Dotson had 5 carries for 0 yards. I mean, Carter had 3 for 12. So like that was like okay. Like I do think Carter looked the best, just like from the eye test. He's explosive. He does look fast, and he looks absolutely jacked as well. Like I do appreciate the running back physique that he's carrying right now. But so I think he's maybe the one that I would look at and be like, okay, we might have something there. But the run game as a whole really struggled, and that, like you said, that has a lot to do with the offensive line. So didn't really get a great look, I think, at these running backs.
Yeah, it's always a tough position to evaluate in the preseason because that blocking, it can be so hit or miss, and some guys just don't ever, get a really good look. So, that one's I think going to go on, for most of camp. It seems kind of like Carter and Washington Jr. are in the lead for that RB3 spot. We'll see if Corbin or somebody else can snatch it here in the next coming weeks. But that's one where it's kind of like you almost think when it comes to the preseason football, you're either going to see like the most dominant looking run offense ever. You're going to see like the most inept. It's like never in between.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, exactly. It feels like there is no like middle ground there whatsoever. Continuing on the offensive side, Easton Stick. I mean, is it Easton Stick season? I mean, 15 of 18 for 149 and a touchdown. I mean, he was efficient. He had to navigate some pressure. I was really impressed. I thought he looked great against it was obviously the Lions' second string, but like, I mean, I have no real criticisms. I think he was careful with his placement. I think he had very good placement on several throws, some of which, like some of his incompletions, I think were like, guys probably could have come down with it, but and Emory Jones too was 4 or 5 for 49 yards. I mean, he didn't really get a ton of time, unfortunately, but I don't think that was as good, but again, wasn't problematic. So right now, like this is the best I've seen like the QB 3 and 4 in Atlanta look in quite some time.
Yeah, I thought when Stick first got signed, I said that like I felt like he's a competent backup quarterback, and a lot of people kind of like were like not really flamed me for it, but they were like, what? Like Easton Stick? And I'm just kind of like, in terms of like QB2, like I think that he has the tools to, hold it together for a little bit. He's obviously not as good of a backup quarterback as Kirk Cousins, but nobody in the league has a backup as good as Kirk Cousins. That's, few teams know how to build a quarterback room like the Atlanta Falcons, clearly. Stick, I think his first play too was like, he had to like, Jack Nelson just like completely like got beat off the snap, and so Stick had to do his best impression of Lamar Jackson to start the game, and from there I was kind of like, oh, okay, all right, Stick, like not bad, and he was navigating the pocket well. He delivered the football. He gave like these depth receivers a chance, and in the preseason, like that's all you can ask for. It's like, just please throw some catchable balls so we can figure out who is like the guy and who is not. And he did that. So that's really all we could ask for. He introduced us to the wide receiver that absolutely nobody had been talking about at all during camp, which was Dylan Drummond. It became the Dylan Drummond game. He channeled the spirit of Terrence Mathis with that 81 on, and had himself a nice little outing.
Yeah. Drummond was just like the outlet for these guys. He had showed off more wiggle than I thought he had, given his size, stature. Showed off some yards after catch a little bit. Just found ways to get open. Just guys wanted to target him. So shout out to Drummond. That was nice to see. Obviously, I feel like at one point the Falcons were like, all right, we need to like get some offense going. Chris Blair, get in there. Like, I don't know if they were planning on playing Chris Blair or not. If they're like, all right, Chris, get in there. And he just comes in, just has 3 catches, absolutely like dunks on the lines. Like he just comes in for like a few snaps on like one drive, like catch, touchdown. Like it was just like, okay, wow. And like that was a tremendous catch, like for the touchdown too. Like great play there. So, I mean, Blair, obviously, I think is in heavy contention for the roster as well. He seems to still be a favorite of this staff. I I think Nick Nash, like we might have been witnessing the Nick Nash second half, but again, game cut short. Nash has, I feel like, in like 2 drives with Emory Jones, he has 3 catches for 35 yards. He was definitely Emory Jones' preferred target. So, we'll see if that role evolves going forward. Maybe he gets the call up to that second string unit, see if he can do anything there. But yeah, the rest of the passing game, pretty quiet.
Sills had a couple nice grabs.
Mm-hmm.
He got open on that deep ball. They
Yeah.
just weren't able to connect on it. So I thought that was nice. Casey kind of didn't really do anything.
Yeah, I don't even think he played. Did he?
He played.
Oh, okay.
But he didn't get the ball at all. He was in on all those like opening drives. He just did not. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, that's
like
that makes sense. I'm like, wow, did he play?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I know, like, because everything we hear out of camp is like Washington's crushing it, but yeah, in the game, I didn't even notice him. So,
yeah, he didn't show up really.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah, still 2 more games. We'll see how this develops. But yeah, I think Dylan Drummond has kind of thrown his hat in the ring in a way that I wasn't really expecting. So we'll see. We'll see if that continues. Moving on to even perhaps the more like exciting side was the defense, where the Falcons held the Lions like second string unit to 38 passing yards in the first half, basically, which is really impressive. And I think a lot of that had to do with the pass rush, and they were 3 forced fumbles, a bunch of sacks, and I think early in the game, I think the Falcons basically shut down all of the Lions runners except for the quarterbacks. And Hooker had 3 for 27. He had that one long scramble. Kyle Allen had 2 for 10, but everybody else in the Lions rushing chart had less than 4 yards per carry. So they were doing what they needed to do, particularly like the second team defense was much better against the run. So yeah, I was really encouraged, particularly by the play of the defensive line. I think we saw all the young guys getting involved, and I also appreciated the respect for James Pierce that he just got off of training camp hype. That man was getting doubled, like he was getting the star treatment. I was like, wow, okay, I guess we're doing this. So interesting for a guy who's not played NFL snaps before now to get that sort of treatment from the opposing team.
Yeah, I thought that it was a real competent showing from the group. I don't really think I was blown away by any performance, but nobody's performance really let me down. We saw the attacking front in action early when Taquan Graham had a really nice TFL. And it was almost picture perfect because you could see how the 3 interior linemen moved with the zone blocking as it developed. Saw them reset the line of scrimmage on that play, and we saw them just fire through their gaps and blow up the run. And so that's the philosophy that we've heard Nate Ali talk about, that we've heard Jeff Ulbrich talk about. So to kind of see it off rip, that was really nice to see. The young guys were active. And I thought that, Hendon Hooker, he just looked discombobulated back there. He did not look comfortable, even when there really wasn't any pressure coming. I thought him and Kyle Allen both just kind of seemed like they were really feeling it or seeing ghosts. But the D-line took advantage of that. I thought, if I had to single out one of them on the line, it probably would be Dorless. I think Dorless, had the best game. And we kind of saw, in the pass rush, this was what really made him exciting is this is the area that he has, the most chance to kind of bolster Atlanta's pass rush. And you saw why. He's just so quick with this first step, almost too quick, almost got too up far the field on a couple of plays where it's all right, a better QB is going to be able to take advantage of the rushing lane you left open there. But he still had enough athleticism to make the play or finish or just disrupt the quarterback enough to get in there. Jalen Walker, we didn't see a lot of. I think when I went back and watched the All 22, he had 8 reps, but 2 really good, promising reps against the run, because he's going to have to be able to, if he wants to be on the field, he's going to have to play the run, because teams are going to run at him early to kind of test, can he really set the edge at this level? Is he going to be strong enough? We've kind of talked about how, he's an elite athlete, but there are measurable size concerns, and we just need to make sure that the strength is going to transition. And against that second unit, it looked like it transitioned well. He was able to stonewall an offensive tackle on one play, and it redirected the running back to the cutback where Rook was waiting for him. Rook did a really nice job of that play of stacking his guy, getting him into the backfield. And then on another play, he had to shed the tight end and then take on a fullback, blowing up the run there. And I think that one also led to a TFL. So really, really good stuff. Just kind of those small details. Still needs to refine his pass rush plan a little. But again, we're talking about like 8 snaps here. It's really hard to take too much out of it. With James Pierce, I thought, I didn't necessarily think it was the Lions strategically going at him, more so that it just kind of ended up being that he was on the strong side. He was the rusher that the running back's going to go at and chip. But it's just good for him to see that and to get those reps, because nothing comes free in the NFL. And if you are, considered the better pass rusher of the two on the field or things like that, protection's going to go that way. You have to be able to get through those chips. And, I think it gave him something to work on too, understanding how to brace for that, because there's a couple where, he gets chipped and I think he wasn't ready for it. And he ends up getting moved a little bit more, redirected more than I think he would have liked. But, overall, we saw the attacking, front in action. And I think we're pretty happy with what we saw.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think Dorless had probably the best game. I would agree there. I thought Rook had a nice game too. I think the main thing is I think we can see that the Falcons are kind of missing, especially without Onyemata playing, who's probably going to be the primary nose tackle. They're just missing that 2-gapper in the middle, because we could see it. Rook's not really a guy that's going to be able to take on a duo block and survive it, right? That's just he's a 300-pound guy. He's got the length to try to lock out, but he's going to get pushed off of his gap. Unless you're really a 2-gapper, you're not going to be able to take on double teams with reliability. So I think that was noticeable, without Onyemata. And maybe Onyemata is going to do that. I know he's kind of in that 315, 320 range. So maybe they're strategically trying to get his weight up to help him be that 2-gapper for them. I think they could really use and they may do this at Final Cuts, looking for that more traditional run stuffing nose for these teams that are going to want to run right at the Falcons in the middle, getting that guy in there to help, take some of those body blows and occupy the center, and not let them send the center and a guard at Rook, because they've got to deal with, some 330-pound badass in the middle. I'm just a big fan of the traditional one tech. Call me old fashioned, I don't know, but I think every roster should have one, because you're going to go up against some teams that are going to want to just pound the rock, and if you don't have that guy, it's hard to go toe to toe with that kind of attack. So I do want to shout out Josh Woods too. I thought he actually we didn't have a lot of linebackers available for this game, but I thought Woods looked decisive. I thought he made a couple good tackles. So shout out to Woods, who, more of a career special teams guy, but got an opportunity to play a lot in this game, and I think led the team in tackles and just looked solid. So that's always nice to see.
Yeah. I thought, like you said, it kind of seemed like they were short there at the linebacker spot, which kind of like we were saying, makes the Ronnie Harrison signing make a lot more sense too. Just knowing, like you pointed out, JD Bertrand still in that non-contact jersey today. And to go back to your point about the nose tackle, we did see Laquale London get 13 snaps. They really were, trying him out there at nose. He did look a little beefier. I'd say it was probably up and down, but to your point, it's going to be interesting to see, is it street? Is it nose? Who's going to be that other guy besides Onyemata? And, we mentioned it earlier. It was really interesting seeing Morgan Fox in there. At the end, somebody was like, they've got Morgan Fox out there taking training camp snaps. And I'm like, that's what Morgan Fox is thinking right now, too.
That was shocking to me. Yeah.
Because fellas, it's I'm 31. What are we doing?
Late in the literally late in the in the fourth quarter, Morgan Fox comes into the game. And okay. I guess I don't know. I mean, I think he was probably the quietest interior D lineman at camp. So I wonder if it's more like, oh, like maybe we just like this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Like because TQ I thought has been making more of an impact, and he actually made an impact in the game. I don't know if I would be playing him at nose tackle like they were doing. I think they were just trying to find guys to play there, but
He looked good though.
he looked fine. Like I think if I was like a penetrating nose tackle, he can do it. I just don't ask him to two gap or anything. But yeah, I think that's pretty concerning for Morgan Fox, because I didn't really see anything in camp, and then they have him out there in the fourth quarter of a preseason game. That's a little alarming to me. So maybe Fox is, he's been very consistent, but he is getting up there. And at a certain point, some guys do just hit the wall. And I think the Falcons actually have some guys on the interior that they might like maybe Taquan Graham is a guy they prefer, at that spot. And they've got some tough decisions to make there. But I will say about the secondary, obviously DeMarco Hellams was just a bat out of hell. I absolutely loved it. And that penalty was a travesty. There's what do you how are you supposed to play safety if you can't do that? What do you want him to do? Just let him catch the ball? He's playing single high. That's exactly what he has to do. They're like, oh, well, you can't launch into a defender. That's not launching. He just ran at him full speed. He didn't jump at him or anything. In fact, he was trying to put his shoulder more into him. You could see him clearly trying to lead with the shoulder. If the NFL is going to call that, there's just no way to play defense. And again, even if the NFL is going to call that, you have to do that. You have to hit the receiver. You can't let them get away with that. So, I think you could see it on the sideline. The coaches were like, don't worry, Helms. We know. We know, buddy. It's okay. That's exactly, that's teach tape. That's exactly what you should be doing at safety. It was a totally clean hit. If you don't want your receiver to take that hit, don't throw that route. It pisses me off. But aside from that, Helms had a great game overall, and he deserves his props in this one.
Yeah. I thought, I think the only, it hurts saying this, I think the only thing that got Helms on that was the forearm follow through. They hate that motion. And the refs, the surface area where he hit the man, totally clean. It was right across the chest plate, maybe got some of the shoulder, but it wasn't hitting him in the head or anything like that. But when those forearms fling through, they always throw that flag. It is what it is. I think Helms got his lick back a couple plays later, and luckily, I keep seeing people say they threw the flag before he even got hit. They threw the flag before he got hit, and I'm like, that was the OPI. There was OPI on the play. They were not that was not premeditated flag throw. It just so happened that the timing of it.
Yeah.
He did get his lick back. All I would say is that it's fun right now, and it's preseason, and it's great, and we love it, and the energy is needed, but play the ball, man.
Yeah, you got to
play the ball.
Yeah.
Turnovers are so much sexier than big hits. Turnovers are and he had a chance. I thought that second one, I was like, oh, he's going to get that deflection there. I thought he had it right in his grasp, but he went for the big hit. Nothing wrong with that. We'll take it. I think that was third down. So, counts as a turnover basically anyways. But on that first one, that was a house call. If he looked up and he goes to just take that football, he's taking that all the way back for 6. So
yeah,
love that we got Hitman Helms back, but let's focus on some INTs, man. you're going to be able to hurt people in the run game.
Yeah, no. And that's exactly right. It's I think it's sort of maybe he didn't trust his ability to get the ball. So he's like, I'm going to do what I feel most comfortable with, which is just delivering. Yeah, I'm just delivering this, and I'm not going to risk not getting this. But yeah, I think that's the difference between where he is now, which is a very good depth safety, to starting safety, where you would want your starting safety to be getting the pick. But maybe for Helms, it's maybe that's the reason he's a little bit lower on the chart. It's because he doesn't maybe trust his hands so much, or isn't necessarily looking for that. And maybe that's something he can grow into as he continues to play. But I thought Natrone Brooks, 2 thumbs up, loved it. I thought Brooks looked good. Lamar Jackson, I think got caught with some flat feet on that big play. And so did the safety. I don't know what the safety was thinking. He was creeping down, and then he was like, oh my God, there's Meeks. And yeah, just the classic adage, if they're even with you before you turn your hips, it's over. So, I think maybe not enough respect given to the speed of Jackson Meeks there, which led to the big play, obviously. But overall, unfortunately, D'Alford just bit hard on that inside move and got picked. And I thought the recovery was pretty good, but again, in that short area of the red zone, like if you make a mistake like that, you give up the touchdown. So that was not a good rep. That was not a good rep for him. So
Yeah, that was tough. He really just got lulled. Isaac Tesla, man, that kid can play.
Yeah.
Lions, third round rookie, wide receiver. He was nice. He had some nice plays last on Friday. I went back and was watching him all over the tape. But yeah, it's really tough. So like last year, we do talk about how the team ran zone a lot. If you go back and watch, there were multiple times when they got, I think it was like within 10 yards or just in the red zone, they would switch it up and run some more man to kind of like, I don't know if it was just to mix things up or if guys preferred that in close quarters. They'd rather like be tight. And like we saw Alford struggle there last year, and just to kind of see that first rep on the goal line, it's just not what he needed. And it's not what the staff wanted to see either, trying to obviously, give him the opportunity to keep his spot. But, plays like that, even if it's a really well executed rub, like that was like the perfect, rub route. You just can't let it happen, man. It's tough. You've got, multiple guys behind you that the team seems to be really interested in. And yeah, so I thought Lamar Jackson's debut was also disappointing. I was really hoping that he would come in and make me feel good about the outside cornerback depth. I left that game kind of feeling the same way I felt about the outside cornerback depth, like back in the springtime, where I'm like, yeah, it's bad. It's not magically going to get better. And, the team didn't play, Clark Phillips. I think it was more injury related than anything. I think so. Clark's still not participating in practice, I believe. Mm-hmm. We didn't see Mike Hughes. We didn't see AJ Terrell. Like, we know that these guys that we all saw in the field are, deeper on the depth chart, but it just kind of takes one injury for one of them to get thrown in there. I had tweeted this out, and we had talked about it last week, but it was like, oh, Mike Ford's listed as a nickel. Okay, are we sure? And then yeah, we kind of saw why there was a little bit of concern over Mike Ford being listed at look, if Mike Ford's playing inside or outside, good things are not happening. But he just does not really seem to have the fluidity to play in the slot. He's always been a stiffer guy, so that kind of showed. So whether it's Natron Brooks, whether it's Kobe Bryant or somebody else, someone's gonna have to step up. I thought Brooks had a decent game. He got on one play, but he had good PBU on another. And I mean, he just flies around. He is reckless with his own body. This man is listed at 175, and I think my favorite play. Yeah. I mean, he looks it, man. I think my favorite play was him coming in, playing. I think he was an overhang on the play, and I mean, he just lays the wood on the running back for a no gain, zero hesitation when he sees that the hole is there, and you have to play like that because we've talked about it. Then the Falcons seem like they're going to be doing a decent amount of nickel again, and whoever that nickel or that overhang or big safety, whoever's in that position is going to be counted on to play the run. And so you have to show that you can do that. And I thought he did a really good job of showing that he can hit people. And most importantly, he does not seem to get injured. You see a lot of guys who don't have the fear in flying in like that, but they can only hold up for so long. He just bounces back up like it's nothing.
Yeah. I think he's got really good instincts for it. He's got the want to. He's got the physicality. I do wonder if Billy Bowman doesn't seize control of this job, if the team ends up going to Natron Brooks. I know they've been playing him a lot outside, but I think that's because he already played at slot all of last year. So I wonder if they're just cross-training him to make him sort of their CB4, their guy that can play wherever they need. And I feel like if D'Alford falters and Billy Bowman still needs time, I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, if Natron Brooks ends up in the slot week one, if nobody else takes control of that job, because we've seen him play it before a little bit and he was good. And right now he looks like the best of those sort of deeper down the depth chart corners. So Curious to see how that develops, but I think right now I feel good about him. We didn't get to see a ton of Kobe Bryant. Again, it was sort of like, I think we would have gotten another quarter of Kobe Bryant if the game had continued. So we'll continue to monitor that. But he's probably the one everyone's hoping is able to sort of take that next step and solidify himself as one of the top backups on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, they want to see what everybody can do, right? So I think you make a really good point that, just because the preseason, depth chart says that, Natron Brooks is an outside corner, it does not mean that he's just an outside corner. It doesn't mean that, we won't see these guys get used in a bunch of versatile ways.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Anyone else you wanted to shout out from either side of the ball?
Just shout out to my guy Khalid Kareem.
Yeah,
got in there, got a sack. Love that. We pointed him out last year as somebody that seemed to we were like, who is this guy? Like, he seems to, and then we looked up. He's got, the go-go gadget arms. He's got everything, and just kind of seemingly came out of nowhere. He was drafted by the Bengals, like 3-4 years ago, something like that. And he seems like he's carving out a role so much so that, people have talked about, why didn't we see Braylon Trice? Why didn't we see Braylon Trice? I'm like, that's because Braylon Trice is at the bottom of the room. Like, Braylon Trice was dressed, and he was going to do fourth quarter mop-up duty. He wasn't like just a scratch or healthy inactive or anything like that. And so I think that kind of puts into perspective, one, just kind of like where this edge room is at. And I think that it's in a pretty good place. If we're getting to the point to where, our free agent gyms are dueling it out with our second year rookies. I think that they've done a really good job of kind of like making the bottom half of this room a lot more competitive. And we've seen them do that in other areas as well. Like we talked about it with the running back room, the wide receiver room, the safety group. Like, this is kind of like, once you start getting your roster together, once you start getting really good about it, this is like the next level to putting together a complete team. And it's having these very deep, these very competitive bottom half of the rooms. So, Braylon Trice has a fight ahead of him. He's going to have to show that they can trust a player that has not taken an NFL snap. And people have to realize that, like, that's what the staff is bouncing in their head too, when they're considering, what's best for the team. And you have to ask yourself, is having, so many guys that all need to develop on the field at once the best thing? Or do you need to sprinkle in a little bit of veteran play here and there to kind of balance everything out? It's a huge ask, what this team is going to be doing, once we get to the regular season, when it comes to all the young guys that are going to be playing and things like that. And so you do want to make sure that you're not overloading them. And, I think mixing in some of these vets is a good way to do it. TQ, Morgan Fox, like we've kind of like pointed out some of these guys that, we know we'll see some from, and we want the rookies to be able to carry this defense, but there have to be guys that they can fall back on and lean on too.
Yeah. So we'll see how that develops. That kind of reminds me about Arnold Ebiketie too. Like, didn't play a ton, but he looked like a good starter playing against backups. Like, he was just like dominant. And you love to see it. I think he had like a 30% pressure rate and like a sack and a forced fumble. Like, he looked like awesome. And again, it's against second stringers, but like, if he's a good starter, you'd expect him to look like that against second stringers. So, I'm excited to see, how big of a role he can have this year. And maybe this is the year that he finally takes that step into being that starting edge rusher, along with Leonard Floyd and those two guys. Because I think those are your favorites to start week one right now. So shout out to him. Looks like he's continued to put in the work and grow there. And yeah, we just need to continue seeing how these guys develop over the remainder of the preseason. Obviously, game was cut a little short, so these sort of further down the depth chart guys didn't get as good of a look at them. My guess is going forward, a lot of these guys that we talked about today probably won't play, right? Like Arnold Ebiketie, I'm not sure if he'll play anymore. Rook, I'm not sure how much he'll play. I don't know how much James Pierce and Jalen Walker are going to play going forward. DeMarco Hellams, I don't think he's going to play anymore. Like, I think the Falcons wanted to get guys snaps, but I think going forward we could see much more like depth guys on the field because, again, like DeMarco Hellams is a perfect example. He played a lot and then got hurt and missed the whole season in because of the preseason. So the Falcons are typically very cautious. I wouldn't maybe get your hopes set on seeing a ton of these guys next, like on Friday against the Titans, just because I think this team is pretty averse to taking that type of risk.
And let's be
But
clear,
yeah.
the Lions were too.
Yeah,
Other teams are like the Falcons aren't just like trying to make you guys angry specifically. We didn't see Montgomery, Goff, Gibbs, any Amon-Ra, anybody like that play, and that's just kind of like par for the course.
Yeah. So, we will see. But yeah, probably unlikely to. I think a lot of these guys will probably be phased out now that they wanted to get them some reps. Maybe the rookies will get another game of, but I think by the time we get to the third preseason game, we're not going to be seeing these guys anymore. So enjoy it while it lasts. But you don't have to wait too long because we're just 3 weeks away from 3-4 weeks away from the start of the season now. So don't have to wait too long either way. But speaking of preseason, preseason week 2. I'm going to give you guys the DGen, FanDuel's DGen preseason betting line of the week here. Atlanta Falcons, Tennessee Titans at Atlanta Falcons on Friday at 7. Join us for our watch party once again, assuming my internet works from where I'm staying. But the Falcons right now, 4.5-point home underdogs to the Titans, which again, probably justified given that the Falcons just don't really care about winning preseason games at all. Now, I think they might have had a chance against the Lions if they had finished the game. It looked like Emory Jones was maybe cooking something up on that drive. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't encourage you to hit this line on FanDuel, but that is the line. It's plus 4.5 Falcons underdogs for the Titans. So if you believe in the Falcons winning preseason games, then this is your opportunity. Or maybe you believe this is a great opportunity to bet against the Falcons. So, maybe it's that sort of reverse psychology thing. You bet against the Falcons, they'll definitely win the preseason game. So that's that DGen line. But Tre'Shon, on the note of that Titans game, anything that you're looking for from the joint practices or from this upcoming game that you want to share? I mean, it's always nice to get to practice against somebody that's not your own team. So
yeah, no, I think it's going to be interesting to hear. Calvin Ridley, how do the corners do against him? I think that's potentially fun to come back to town. And then, the amount of fights, and we'll see how many there are. It's going to be, a lot of people are pointing out to James Pierce, this, that, the other. I am actually going to go out here and say Matthew Bergeron is probably just as likely to start or be in a fight, especially since we already saw Jeffrey Simmons getting after it last week when they were down in Tampa. So, I think that we're going to be some intense matchups in the trenches this week.
Yeah. I wonder is Matthew Bergeron going to be the new Joe Hawley, just brawling around? Joe Hawley wanted to fight every single defensive lineman he went up against. It was just a constant thing. So maybe Bergeron will be the new Joe Hawley for us. So love it. Yeah, it's nice to have some attitude out there. I feel like the Falcons have been a little too nice. I feel like they've been a little too nice for too long. And you don't want him to go too far. We've talked about this, but maybe they could use a little more edge. And I think Bergeron's finding his voice a little bit. His trash talking voice, and they got James Pierce in there now. We know Kobe Bryant is all pro chirp team, so maybe if Kobe Bryant makes the roster too, he can help out with the attitude. But I think it's nice to see this team have a little more spice to them. Excuse me. But yeah, overall, I thought it was up until the injury, obviously, which thank God. Maurice Norris is okay. Pretty enjoyable preseason game before that. It was nice to see competent quarterback play. It's nice to see competent defense. I think it might have been a fun finish, where the Falcons maybe had a chance to tie it up or win or something like that, which is always nice to see. And I think hopefully that'll carry over to Friday's game against the Titans, where it'll be in Atlanta. This one actually should be national on NFL Network. So if you had trouble getting the first preseason game, I know a lot of people did, it should be available everywhere on NFL Network, as far as I know. So that's nice. And of course, we'll be covering that at our preseason watch party again, assuming my internet works. But we'll try to find a way to make it work. I've never been to this hotel, so I can't comment on the quality of the internet. But we'll try to figure some way to have this thing go. But looking forward to that. We'll be back on Wednesday with Joe Patrick joining us, who's got his own new podcast, Joe Patrick on Football. So that's fun. Make sure to check that out too. We'll be talking about the joint practices. Not only be at Flowery Branch over the next few days, covering the joint practices as well. So we got hopefully some fun stuff to talk about then. And then, yeah, we'll be into preseason week 2 after that. So, real quick, guys, one more line I wanted to bring you from FanDuel that I thought was notable. And this one, we talked a lot about Drake London on here, but I did want to bring up, the number 1 overall pick in most fantasy drafts, Bijan Robinson, right? A lot of people think he might take the next step, become the best running back in the NFL this year. I'm among them. If you really do think Bijan's going to be that good, he is currently plus 800 to lead the league in rushing this year, which to me seems like probably a little like you're getting some value there. There's only 2 running backs ahead of him, Saquon and Derrick Henry, which, I think both of those guys, especially Henry, considering the volume he's going to get, wouldn't be shocking if those guys finished ahead, but I do think Bijan's got a good shot at that title. I think the Falcons are going to feature him quite a bit, and that plus 800 number sort of factors in the risk that you're taking, considering that there are a couple guys ahead of him, maybe in terms of favorites. So that's a line I like for sure. Shout out to FanDuel for sponsoring the show. But, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on the Dirty Birds and Brews podcast. We will be back with more Tuesday takes going forward. Tre'Shon Diaz at Tre'Shon, also at Tre'Shon.io on the Blue Sky. Anything else you're working on, Tre'Shon, I want to let the people know about?
Nothing else from me. Just gonna be here every Monday. I'm just waiting to get turned on. And
waiting to get the call.
And then I shut back down after
that.
The
Tre'Shon
waiting.
bot, Yeah. AI generated. No, I'm just kidding. We would never do that here. This YouTube gives you that box you can check. That's like, you can say no AI content use. You can check that box for this show. But appreciate Tre'Shon making the time. Always a lot of fun chatting it up here. Guys, I'm Kevin. I at Falcoholic Kevin. Like I said, subscribe, all that stuff. If you want to get involved with the Falcoholic Fantasy Leagues, we are firing those up. We'll get those started real soon. So if you want to get in, now's the time. If you're already a patron or a channel member, sign up at the link that's published in those channels. If you're not and you want to get in, you still have time. Patreon.com/FalcoholicLive. Sign up there or sign up for the YouTube channel memberships. We'll be firing those up real soon, so check that out. And yeah, we will be back on Wednesday with Falcoholic Live. Joe Patrick joining us. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks again to FanDuel for sponsoring today's show. ZipRecruiter as well. We will be back real soon. Have a great day, guys. Thanks.